All right, guys, before you make any opinion about anything that I say, I want you to stop and think about all the things that have happened within the past month. We've had the Cyprus event where the people of the country, small country, disarmed country, by the way, of Cyprus have their banks shut down, forced a bailout, which is another loan, basically. A bailout is a nice way to put it, where people for 2 weeks had no access to their money. And then they found out that they can have a limit of 300 euros per day if you made or have 100,000 or less euros in the bank. We had people with over 100,000 euros in the bank lose anywhere from 20 to 40% of their money, and they conveniently call it a haircut when it's nothing more than a theft. We've had the event of the bitcoins. If you're not aware of what bitcoins are, I suggest you research that if you're not familiar with it. It was supposed to be, in theory, a new digital currency that was free from the Federal Reserve, and it got smacked down. It went from 30 to $266 in the span of about 3 months, and then crashed from $266 down to approximately, I think, around $55 to $57 in 1.5 days. Then, on that very same day, we have a Utah silver and copper and gold mining company, which had the second largest silver and copper mine in the United States of America Corporation, all of a sudden experience a landslide that they said they were well aware of since at least February of this year. Friday, we have our first gold and silver smackdown, which is followed by last night's and today's murder of the uh, gold and silver, and we see the markets all tanking. We see right now, currently, the Dow Jones is down 266 points. We see tensions that they were talking about, potential war with North Korea, building up the frustration, and now a tragedy where there were several bombs planted at a marathon at the end of the race. That may be very symbolic that it was the end of a race at the finish line, just when people think that we're at the finish line. Our federal government and governments around the world are printing money like it's going out of style. All around the world, whether it be Japan, whether it be the United States of America Corporation printing $85 billion a month, whether we have the Eurozone, doesn't matter. They've all taken us off the gold standard, coincidentally enough, which, if you've ever checked history, any civilization that takes its nation off of the gold standard and becomes a fiat currency has an average lifespan of approximately 40 years. Well, the world was taken off the gold standard in 1971. 40 years was 2011. Now, it's not an exact science. It doesn't mean after 40 years all of a sudden it stops. They say average. So this is pretty close to that time. And anybody wonder why things have been getting so expensive? Let me give you a little hint about this, people, ladies and gentlemen of the world. It's not that things are getting more expensive. It's the fact that your countries and governments are printing so much money that is backed by nothing that it devalues the currency, and you need more of it to make purchases. That's why you're experiencing $3 and $4 a gallon gases and food prices like you've never seen before in probably your lifetime. All this is a setup or a coincidence. If you want to believe all these things happened as a coincidence, that's fine. But I'll tell you this much. I think this is a distraction of what happened in Cyprus as a test run that could potentially happen all around the world. And if they have any kind of justification of saying, well, such and such terrorist group did this bombing, and that's the reason why the stock market has crashed and the gold and silver has crashed, it's very convenient when, in essence and reality, it's really that places like J.P. Morgan are placing millions of paper ounces of gold and silver into the market, flooding the market, creating a huge sell-off, especially when Goldman Sachs was told to sell their gold positions. But meanwhile, the banks are hoarding physical gold. China's buying tons of gold. If you are watching me for the first time and you've never heard of this stuff before, I can imagine how amazing that must sound, how crazy it must sound. But let me ask you from your logical point of view, instead of automatic reaction, what you're programmed on television, you're programmed to not think, not to question, but react. Stop and think for a second. And if you have to rewatch this video, please do. With all the things that I said, these are all things that have happened within approximately about a month, and several of them in the past week. Do you really think in your gut, in your heart, that this is all coincidence? Or do you smell setup? It's time we all start figuring these things out and be free thinkers. Because you know what? I will be the first person to say, I will be proud to say I'm wrong if proven wrong. I would rather question and be wrong than to just accept whatever is being forced down our throats and then later on find out it was a lie. Because look at, like I said in my other video, the Gulf of Tonkin, where our battleship or whatever boat that we had was supposedly torpedoed by the Vietnamese, and it created our entrance in the Vietnam War. How many of our children, our family members, our friends, people that live down the street from you, died for a lie that ultimately in the end makes nothing but bankers and corporations very wealthy because it's very profitable to create a war? You decide for yourself where you want to go in your life, but don't ever be afraid to question things. They're going to say people like me and the ones that try and speak truth are the crazy ones because they don't want you to listen. And truth may be stranger than fiction at times, but you can't automatically dismiss it because it doesn't feel right or you were told something different. Because just because you're told something does not mean the person that gives that information is full of honor and integrity. And unless you can tell me now, the news, the politicians, the bankers, and these major heads of corporations are all honest citizens with integrity and truth, then we have every right to question it. Since when did that become a crime? So I'm doing a couple of rants today because I have to say, honestly, I was shocked that my 1-minute video that talked about the tragedy that happened got the hate that it got from people. Don't hate the messenger. Hate the people that could be behind it. Now, I don't know who's behind it. I may never know the truth. You may never know the truth. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't question it. And don't just think of it as just some random event or some specific person that you're told did it. Otherwise, we'll continue to be fooled. If you don't research history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I hope there are one or two smart people out there who've never seen this kind of information that say, you know what? I'm not just going to believe what he says, but I'm also not going to dismiss it. I'm going to research it, I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to find out for myself. And if I can get one person more to do that today, then you know what? I've done a good thing, and that's why I do this. Some will never understand. But remember, guys, think of it this way. Imagine you're asleep in your house, and you were partying all night, and you passed out drunk in your bed, totally oblivious to anything around you, and you're sleeping in your bed. And your best friend didn't drink as much as you, but didn't want to drive all the way home, crashed out on your couch. And in the middle of the night, all of a sudden he smells smoke and realized the house is on fire. Now, selfish people would just leave, take care of themselves, not worry about the other people in the house. As long as they're out and they're okay, everything's fine. But let's say he decides that he's going to warn you, he's going to try and awake you, and you're passed out, you're hungover, you're feeling sick, you're nauseous, you don't smell the smoke, you don't even notice it because the room is spinning, and you're dead to the world asleep. And he's shaking you, saying, get up, get up, get up. And your first response is like, what the hell, man? Why are you doing this? Get away from me. I'm trying to sleep. And he's trying to push you and say, listen, dude, there's a fire. And you're hungover and you say, I don't believe you. There's no fire. Why? Don't make a joke now. I'm too hungover. And you might even be mad at him. You may even try and punch him. You may just ignore him. You may go back to sleep. But that real friend will lift you out of that bed and forcefully carry you out of the house. And you could be kicking and screaming and yelling all you want until you're out of the house to all of a sudden turn around and realize your house is in flames. Just because you didn't hear it, just because you didn't sense it, just because you didn't want to listen, doesn't mean bad things aren't happening around you. And the people who are trying to help you, how dare you be angry at those people? You should thank them. We don't get that much in this community. But I'll tell you this much. I can't speak for other people, but I speak for myself. I don't do this for the thank yous. So let me tell you right now, anybody watching this, especially my subscribers, you don't have to thank me. I'm not here for that. This is not an ego thing. This is getting out the truth and spreading the message. But, thank the ones, appreciate, not even thank, appreciate the ones that are there putting their lives on the line or sacrificing their time to help people in the world, to spread truthful information. Because, like I said, I'll be glad to be proven wrong. So if anybody out there wants to investigate these things, like the Gulf of Tonkin incident, like 9/11, like a gold trim around an American flag, the Sandy Hook event, the Batman movie theater event, and this marathon, if you want to research all those things and investigate them, and you could tell me every single one of those happened the way you were told, please email me, please show me the evidence, and I'll be right there to make a video to say you were 100% right, I was 100% wrong. I haven't seen anybody do that yet. In this country, and in all countries, we should have the ability to express ourselves. So this is another rant. Some people appreciate it. Some people say it'll be too much. Some people won't even care. But you know what? If I reach one person, I've done my job. What have you done? Peace.